Hey guys, how are you all doing? Welcome back. It's good to see you all again. I figured today I just wanted to speak about the new nurse and what it really looks like to be on your own, to be that new grad. And hopefully, I'm sure everyone can remember and think back to what that looked like. Um, I remember what it was like to finally be off of orientation. And I think with me, I started out, for me, nursing was something I've always wanted to do. I knew from the age of 6 that I wanted to be a nurse. I remember being in first grade, and you know how you write that little essay. It's only a couple of lines long because you don't know how to write that much about what it is you want to do. And when you grow up, and I remember writing about wanting to be a nurse. I had a cousin or have a cousin, I should say, who's a nurse. And I was fascinated by the stories she would have when she come home in the afternoon and would just talk to me about it. And I was like, yep, that's what I want to do. I still remember my little stick figure with a little nurse's cap on it. And at that time, the teacher would pick several little essays to put on the bulletin board outside of the classroom. I remember mine being one. But nursing has always been something that I've wanted to do. I will say, along the way, I made a couple of detours, and I think the majority of it came from a place in me not being true to myself. I know nursing is what I always wanted to do, but I had folks who would say, well, why would you want to be a nurse when you could be a doctor? So I'm like, you know what? Yeah, maybe they're right. And I took time out, taking all my prereqs for the MCAT and all these other things, and getting ready to take the exam for medical school. And it wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't all what I wanted. So I finally came back to my first love of nursing. And when I started out in nursing school, I started as a nurse companion. That's someone who's hired by the hospital to make sure patients don't fall out of bed, patient who are one-to-ones and in restraints that it requires someone to be in the room with them, that I was that person in the room with them. And I thought it was great because it allowed me to really have a better idea and understanding of what I'd be doing day to day. And I will admit, I worked with some of the best nurses. As a nurse companion, I still remember how good they were to me. They would come in the room and they had medication to give or procedure to perform or some task to do. And they said, come on over, come, let me show you what it is we're doing. And they would teach me. Every time I worked a shift, I came away with something new. And the wonderful thing about it was when it was all said and done, I ended up working in the hospital and working on a similar unit. But I would say the first year of being a nurse was not for the faint of heart. I honestly thought that the same nurturing spirit I have and the way I see myself as a nurturer, I know how I am when I precept or I have the opportunity to teach or I just have the opportunity to share. I always want to make sure that the next person gets it, that they know that what they're doing is valuable. And it wasn't always that way. It wasn't always that way. I promise you, sometimes it was trial by fire. And I would get to the end of my shift and I'd be going home and I'd be like, dang, I don't know if nursing is really for me. I don't know if I can do this. And when that has been what you've wanted to do for the majority of your life, it can be very disheartening and soul breaking to know that this thing that you know you would be great at is something you may not even have an opportunity to do. And it's not even necessarily because you feel you're not able to do the work. That's not it. Not at all. It's the other factors that factor into what you do day to day as a nurse. I will say, even with that, I ended up having some really good nurses who would pull me aside, who would pour into me, who would tell me that I don't know what you do for fun. I don't know what you do to decompress. I don't know if you pray. I don't know if you meditate. I don't know what it is you do, but you have to find something because you can't do this job and not have a way to decompress and to let it go. For me, it ended up being a couple of things. One was definitely travel. Love to travel. Try to get away whenever I can. And if I can combine travel and nursing, forget it. I'm good to go. But there was always something, and I would look at others and speak to others and see what it is they do and what they have an opportunity to do to decompress. And I realized that there are so many things that we have that we can share. I just want us as nurses to encourage each other more. I know it seems like this is a common thread and a common theme, but that's just how important this is. I do not believe we encourage each other enough. I do not believe that when given the opportunity to share, we don't always share as much as we could. It's never, nursing is never, isn't a profession where you're doing anything all on your own. It really is team playing and teamwork. It really is. There's no way in the world you can do everything as it pertains to the care your patient should receive if you're doing it by yourself. So you have to invite yourself sometimes to be a little humble, to realize that you don't have all the answers, to realize that your way isn't always the best way and the only way, and to realize that ultimately, if you put the care of your patient first, that will help guide everything else you do. In that, though, I understand how exhausting it can be, mentally exhausting, to always be thinking 5 steps ahead, to make sure that whatever it is you do for your patient, they understand and they get it and that they're better for it. It can be very nerve wracking and draining to be juggling so many balls at the same time and having a fear that you're going to drop one. And if you drop one, your patient suffers because of it. When you really think about it, it's a lot that we take on, it's a lot that we wear on our shoulders that we don't have to carry that all on our own. We don't have to carry those burdens all by ourselves. That we really are stronger together. I will say that doesn't mean that it doesn't necessarily mean that you can share everything with everyone, but look for that fellow nurse. Look sometimes for that seasoned nurse, that nurse that's been around, that nurse that understands what it looks like. And I will admit, sometimes it'll be a nurse that's not even in your facility, may not even be in your hospital, but there's a community of nurses. There's so many of us that we really can and will be better because we have the opportunity to learn from each other. I invite you to stay tuned as I'm putting these things together so that we have a space that we call our own as nurses, that we can share, we can laugh, we can cry, we can ask, we can encourage, we can educate, we can uplift. Because we do all of these things day in, day out for everyone else, we have to do that for ourselves as well. So it won't always be just necessarily patients first, nurses first too. There's nothing wrong with being side by side with caring for yourself as we care for others. So please stay along here. Join me for this ride and this journey. This is just the beginning, and it's just the beginning of something amazing. And I can't wait and hope that you decide to be a part. So take care for today. I will see you all tomorrow and we'll do it again. Have a great one, friends.